It is Sunday night, and boy, do we have a lot of baseball stuff to talk about. It is a wild week in the baseball world. All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. Jeff, I'm going to let you talk for 2 seconds before we jump into baseball.
Thank you, Scott. Tough weekend. My mom passed away on Saturday morning. She's an amazing woman. I had 45 bonus years with her, though, because she, by all rights, should have passed away when I was 7 years old. So I'm lucky in that respect. And, this weekend has gone as good as it possibly could. She's an amazing woman. If there's a heaven, she'll be in it for sure. And grateful that I've had the time with her and I got to be here for that. So all good. And I'm happy to talk baseball now.
For sure. Well said. And obviously, I expressed it to you privately, but, I'd love to hear my condolences to you and the family. So
absolutely.
So sorry for your loss. But you said that you definitely up for this. Want to talk some baseball? Kind of probably a good thing to just think about something else for an hour. So let's talk some baseball. Usually we start with kind of previewing with the next week and doing some FAAB. I want to start with injury stuff because it's so amazingly prevalent in baseball right now. It is. I don't think you and I thought a week ago or 10 days ago when we drafted that you and I were having a text conversation about whether or not we dropped Spencer Strider or like what's going on here. I lost my third starter in the Vegas main event, but let's start with Strider. He's a guy that was kind of in main events was like the second pick in most drafts. A couple he went first, but I mean he was a top 10 pick in any format you're in. He was probably top 6 in the NFBC most of draft season, went up in the main event, pitching always gets moved up. And if you drafted Spencer Strider, you did so with the theory that, well, here's my ace, here's how I build it, and I'm going to get some offense now, maybe get one more pitcher, but like you are building your team around that base of 275 strikeouts, whatever it may be. Did you? I know you have him in a couple spots. Did you hold on to him? I think we talked about that. I said I would have held on to him until we get a little bit more news here. But I mean, everything about this sounds bad, sounds long term. The quote from the Braves about the MRI quote didn't look good. Like it's hard to see this going anyway, but the way we don't want it to.
Exactly. I have Strider in 5 leagues, as a matter of fact. I don't have him in the main. We did discuss taking him at 1.1, decided to go with Acuna. And by the way, haven't really got the benefit of the bargain there yet.
We're gonna talk about him a little bit later too. But man, can you imagine? Yeah, if you were making that call and you would change your mind late, that would have been a tough one to stomach right now.
Yeah, I've got him at, I got him as a super cheap keeper in the staff keeper league. I got him in yogurt. I did pocket aces there. I have him in one of the Beat Jeff Erickson leagues. I've got him in a home league as well. I have him in a lot of places there. First Pitch Arizona league. And you are talking about, a player there that you're building around. Now, at least in yogurt, I did pocket aces, so I'm not totally screwed in my starting pitching because I have Zach Wheeler still. But other leagues where I had them, maybe I waited a little bit longer.
And even in TGFBI, like you do that with the theory that you're going to dominate pitching and maybe your offense can be a little weaker. So I mean, it's killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely one of those cases there where you're dealing with that. But I'll tell you, other leagues, other players key players are being out, getting knocked out. I mean, you lost Shane Bieber in a lot of leagues, and trying to adjust to that is tough too. I mean, I don't think this is the end of it. Last year was a very prevalent injury year, and it's so funny. We talked about this. Eric Smolsky and I did with the Yuri Perez injury on Thursday. And then after that, Bieber got hurt and Strider got hurt.
That mentions that something we haven't talked about for a month. But I mean, Garrett Cole. I mean, Strider and Garrett Cole, the two guys who go in the first round of drafts, and they're both out long term. I mean, it sounds like Cole's starting a throwing program, but like we're not gonna have Strider or Garrett Cole the first 2 months of the season. Like at absolute best case scenario, it's probably gonna be worse than that. It's wild. Are you just a velocity thing? Are you a pitch clock person? Are you just pitchers just get hurt? Where do you kind of fall on? I'm not sure what anybody can do about it.
I think it's a little bit of everything, right? Yeah. I mean, Mark Pryor had perfect mechanics, was never going to get hurt. He got hurt. Yuri Perez was babied, like utterly babied. He got hurt. Now he threw really freaking hard. I think that has something to do with it. But you know what? You can't deny that the harder you throw, the more effective you are. I mean, that nexus exists for a reason.
Yep.
So it's hard to escape that and not want to throw harder. I don't think we've ever figured out a way to save our pitchers. So I don't love that. I think the pitch clock, the timing of that enhances the possibility of injury, because I think you throw more tired pitches. And when you throw with fatigue, that's when you put yourself at risk. But I can't tell you with stock certainty that, that's what causes that. That's what enhances it more. I think it's a factor. I think it's one of many factors.
Yeah, I do too. I just hope we can we get a good string of games here, because it's just, I feel like, and it is, we're obviously talking fantasy here. I just don't. You never want fantasy leagues to turn into who avoids the most landmines and that's who wins, because that takes a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of football seasons that turn out that way. You lose your first round pick, you're done. And the good thing about baseball is you can lose Spencer Strider and still win a league. Like in overall competition, you certainly are probably in a really tough spot to compete overall, but you can compete in your league. And baseball is the sport where you can adapt to that. You mentioned Shane Bieber. He's definitely out for the year. He's having Tommy John. Wild that he had 2 great starts. He moved up in draft season. He's having more velocity in the spring, and he's not a guy that throws 98 and 9, but a couple miles an hour more. Looked really good. The stories were wild. It sounds like he had some pain in his first start. It sounds like they didn't know, or they just went ahead with it, and he threw his second start, had more pain, went an MRI. And just like that, I mean, it was so wild, because it wasn't like he left to start earlier. We had a news. I woke up that morning, checked Twitter, and all of a sudden Bieber was out for the year.
Yeah, I was gobsmacked by the news. And the thing is, I didn't realize there was a velocity problem. In fact, we all the talk about him going to driveline, how he increased his velocity, and that made him more effective. Heck, on Thursday, Eric and Smolsky and I did the podcast, and one of the questions was, do you sell high on Bieber? And we both concluded no, that this is vintage Bieber, and all of a sudden, no, it's not. And it makes you question everything there in terms of where can you buy into any performance?
I mean, he had a little bit of a forearm issue, whatever it was last year, and maybe it just never went away. But that's one. There's so many pitchers that have that. I mean, I don't know if you can try and avoid everybody with anything like that, but then you're certainly limiting who you draft. It's really tough. It just seems like you just kind of have to get lucky on these.
Yeah, you do. And more are coming, and I know the first couple of weeks of the season, just like the first couple of weeks of spring training, are like those 2 inflection points where that's probably at the highest occurrence. But I mean, we're not free of the zone of danger right now. I know that,
and we're 10 days in. Like it's pretty wild. A couple offensive players too with some long-term stuff. Trevor Story dislocated his left shoulder, diving for a ball in the hole. Funny because I don't know anything about injuries except for this exact injury, because that is exactly how I did it to myself. Obviously, I'm not comparing myself to Trevor Story as an athlete anyway, but I did the exact same way, diving for a ball at shortstop. And it's just the second he did it, I knew exactly what it was. He was really emotional afterwards. It makes you think that he knows it's pretty bad. Obviously, it depends if he has surgery. If he has surgery, it's going to be done essentially for the year. If not, he could rest and rehab it, maybe be out 4 to 6 weeks. There's a lot of different timelines out there, but his quote about hoping to come back at some point this season certainly makes you think he knows.
That caught my eye.
Yeah.
That caught my eye indeed. I was like, whoa. I thought, okay, well, it's a shoulder. It might be a couple of months, but no, this is really bad. And now they're going to get Vaughn Grissom back at some point in time. So I didn't go too crazy in my bids for the two replacements there. And
Reyes and Hamilton.
Yes, thank you. You could tell I was searching there. I got beat out.
Don't ask me for first names, but I got last names for you.
David Hamilton and Pablo Reyes.
There you go.
I was bidding on both of them in AL Tout Wars, didn't get them. Wasn't really bidding on them in mixed leagues in both of these cases is the thing. But, just because Grissom's coming back. Paul asked, did you cut Strider tonight? I did not cut Strider. We talked about cutting Strider.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it yet. I'm going to wait a week.
You got to see how this week goes.
Exam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we'll know a lot pretty early this week, and we'll know if it's we're going to rehab it, we're going to do a PRP, whatever, in 2 months. I think you have to hold him. I mean, he's the best pitcher in baseball, and obviously, if it's Tommy John, you can drop him. But I think you got to wait. I think you got to wait for the news this week on someone that.
Agreed. But so say if it's 2 months, 8 to 10 weeks. That's a really crappy time period there to hold a player, and in a no IL league.
Really crappy, but I'm holding him for 8 to 10 weeks.
I am too.
I'm holding him until you get the first setback. How about that?
Yeah. Like, I'm cutting Josh Young, but I'm not cutting Spencer Strider. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think if you have the possibility of Strider back July 1, like that's a massive 3 months. Like you have
Right.
to.
And I don't want somebody else to get a windfall later on. I think that's part of my concern. Where, I mean, Young is a windfall in a different way, but man, I mean, guys coming back from wrist injuries, hitters coming back from wrist injuries, there's so many other attendant issues that I have less of a concern with that.
Yeah. We talked about Story, Luis Robert. And this is a weird one too. He's on the 10-day IL today or yesterday with a hip flexor strain. It's the same kind of thing he had in 2021. We missed a lot of games. There was a Bob Nightingale piece in the USA Today that said internally the White Sox think he's out for 3 to 4 months, which is kind of wild. So I have
it's an innocuous little injury too, Scott. I'm here in Kansas right now, and we get Royals games here, and
I thought you were going to say you had your own hip flexor.
Just it's a Kansas thing. You wouldn't understand.
I thought maybe on the plane or something you had a hip flexor.
Yeah. Point being is I saw it live happen, and I was like, "What?" And then you see him turning first, and there's nothing, and then all of a sudden you see him pulling up, and then he makes it all the way to second barely, and you're like, "Oh, are you kidding me?"
It's funny because you and I talked about it in the preseason. We're like, the White Sox are really bad. At least they have Eloy and Robert, and now
they don't. But they have Garrett Crochet, who's still good. But
I love Garrett Crochet, but boy, he's gonna have trouble getting wins.
He's gonna have trouble getting 2 runs of support. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, bad, but so Luis Robert and Trevor Story. Like, if you had to make a decision tonight, I think with Story, I was holding one more week until we get some info this week. With Robert also too, like the team hasn't said that. That was kind of one media story, and it was kind of a sourcing thing. I think on both guys, I was waiting for one more week, and then I'm assuming they're both going to be drops pretty quick here, though.
Hold, definitely a hold for both. Definitely for Robert. I mean, I know it doesn't matter technically when you draft him at this point, but you're holding on to your 3rd round player. You're not necessarily holding on to your 15th round player or 12th.
I wouldn't argue with anybody dropping Story in a 12-teamer tonight, but I'd probably just wait a week. I think it's only a week. It's only a week of games. I think you wait, but I think he's pretty much definitely be a drop in a 12-teamer and probably be a drop in a 15-teamer. But I think
he's definitely not a never-ending story.
You've been waiting for that one, haven't you?
Yeah. Okay, give me a little bit there.
I will not criticize any puns that you do tonight.
Thank you,
Eddie. So real quick, a couple of quicker injuries here before we jump into the FAAB for the week. CJ Abrams missed Saturday and Sunday with a bone bruise on his finger, and Wilson Contreras, the Cardinals catcher, also missed Saturday and Sunday after getting hit on the pitch hit by a pitch on the hand. So both guys with some hand and finger injuries, but neither of them sound serious. But as we know here, these things can go badly pretty quickly. But it seems like both guys will be back this week. Kind of one of those things where, the Cardinals play tomorrow, which helps, and the Nationals play tomorrow too. So we should get some news and lineups on both those guys early tomorrow.
Yeah. We should. We'll see. In the case of like the Cardinals, man, they just can't get any luck with injuries. They're quietly been one of the cursed teams out there.
Yeah, they have. They will get Sonny Gray back this week, so that's a positive there. So he's going to debut on Tuesday. Sounds like a 65 pitch count, and probably won't start again until next Monday. He's a pretty tough fantasy start this week, but if you have him, obviously it's really good that he's back. Jeff, only one day game tomorrow. There's a 2:10 game, the White Sox and the Guardians. I believe that's Cleveland's home opener. And then there's a 3 o'clock Marlins Yankees, but there's no early games tomorrow.
Yeah, which is good. Although I love me in my day games, but I'm traveling tomorrow. So the fewer day games, the better as far as
I love day games too. I just don't love Monday day games, for being honest. I just I like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday day games. Those are great.
Patriots Day is lurking right around the corner.
I know Patriots Day is haunting us. It's coming. Walker Buehler. He had a 4.2 inning rehab outing on Saturday. Looked pretty good. Do us some highlights from that. He looked pretty good. I think he's kind of coming back a little quicker than we thought. He's making at least one more rehab start, and then it might be with the Yankees or the Dodgers after that. We may get some Walker Buehler maybe in the 3rd week of April, maybe a little quicker than we thought when we drafted a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And poor Dodgers. I mean, what are they going to do to figure everything out here? But yeah, it's great if you had him though, especially if you drafted early on in DC or one of the standalone leagues. Going to be it's nice that you're not losing as much because you drafted with the kind of the understanding that you were going to get more of the season with him. They didn't announce it really till the open of spring training that he was going to be delayed to his return. So this is good news for sure.
So it's funny you mentioned the Dodgers. I went to look. I'm like, I thought they were 9-3 or 8-4. They're 8-4. Jeff, I would have taken a long time to get this right. Do you know who has the best run differential in baseball right now? I want to preface this by saying I would have taken a lot of guesses to get this right.
Yeah, well, it's clearly not the Dodgers then. I'm going to say the Pirates.
The Pirates are a plus 18. They are second in the National League.
Okay.
This is an American League team. American League team in a division that we often make fun of.
Is it Cleveland?
It is Cleveland, plus 32.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are feasting on the underbelly of the AL with they took advantage of that A's matchup there.
They did, although the A's went in Detroit and won 2 out of 3, Jeff. So I think if Paul Spor's are listening, at least I got that going for me.
Oh, he's right there. I can tell. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Detroit. But anyways, I think it's pretty interesting that Cleveland has been so good, but now they lost Bieber. We'll see.
Cleveland's not getting up more than 5 runs in the game all year. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. That is pretty crazy, and they're going to get Gavin Williams back in the near future. Yep. Now, so they lost Bieber. Were you interested in any of the potential replacements for Bieber?
I'm trying to remember if there's anybody in that rotation that I was going after. I don't really think there was.
And I've got a point to make here too. There's a reason I asked that. I'm not just spitballing here, but
I don't think they do they have a fifth starter? I think they're gonna go with 4 this week, aren't they?
I think that's correct, although I wonder if the rainout changes things. Ben Lively is the guy that would likely be the putative replacement.
Former Reds guy, right?
Yeah, former Red, former Philly, former Korean. He threw 3 scoreless innings in AAA on Thursday, so he's pretty. And this was a rehab assignment. He could be in there for a little bit because Gavin Williams, he's not ready yet. It could be a couple more weeks still. Cleveland
they have the long lost third Curry brother on that team too, right?
Yeah, Xavion,
that's him.
Yeah, but I do think Lively is in the conversation if he's not the guy. I don't know, but I just think that's someone to keep in mind too. Gavin Williams is obviously the guy we're looking at long term.
Right. Yeah. A couple quick injury things before we do jump into FAAB. JD Martinez dealing with quote overall body soreness, which is pretty much sounds like every day of my life. But apparently, when you don't play for us spring training for a long time, and you're 35 or 36, whatever he is, you get some overall body soreness. We have not seen any of those big 3 play yet, right? Snell, Montgomery, and JD have not played yet. Snell goes tomorrow.
Yeah, and I haven't heard it. Obviously, I've been a little less online this weekend. When's Montgomery making his debut?
I have not seen a definitive date on Montgomery yet. I'm looking at the RotoWire probables, which is really good. He's not pitching next week. I probably could fast forward and see the week after, but I don't know if we have a set date for J-Mont yet.
Yeah.
Let's see. The RotoWire is guessing next Friday, the 19th, against the Giants.
Yeah. So. Question, I'm just going to throw this out here. Cody McAllister asked a non-injury question. Should I be patient with Torkelson?
1,000%. You could ask the same thing last year. He'll get going. He'll get rolling. He was really bad early last year and ended up with 30 and 90.
I would be patient with all Detroit hitters, all Minnesota hitters, all Cleveland hitters, Cleveland's been on the road.
Just say hit. I mean, it's been 10 days. We got to remember that there are
that too.
There are sections. I mean, Francisco Lindor was 1 for 31 going to today's game. That is a crazy slump. But we would have noticed it in the middle of the season, but we probably wouldn't have really focused on it because it happens. Mm-hmm. And 1 for 31 is pretty extreme. But whatever Torkelson's at right now, he's going to have stretches like that during the season. Yeah, you gotta. It's very, very appealing to not be patient and grab the sexy name off the waiver wire, grab someone that's you want to grab. But I would not. I would be very patient with Torkelson.
Yeah, I would be too, especially given how he finished last season too. I think there's definitely some bona fides there. It's tougher with a lesser established player. I don't view him as fully established, but he's established enough that I'm definitely being patient there. In fact, I'm targeting.
It's painful when I look at team stats and I see all these guys struggling. But yeah, I mean, I think Paul said it in the chat. Anybody that is not like a fringy guy, I'm not. I'm being patient with. I'm not dropping anybody yet that
and if you're in the trade league,
that's healthy.
Yeah, and in a trade league too, there's a reason why buy low, sell high is a saying that exists, and it's not just the stock market.
Yeah, I agree there. And anybody healthy that I drafted anywhere remotely near the first, say, 20 rounds, I'm being patient with at the moment. Last note before we jump into some other stuff. Jhoan Duran has no timetable for his return, but he is throwing with no pain in his oblique, so that's a really good sign. So good news there on Duran, although we don't have a set timetable yet, but he's moving in the right direction.
Indeed. Can't wait.
Yeah, Siege, our buddy Siege noted the Yankees game got moved to a night game because of the eclipse. That is true. I think it starts at 6 New York time, 3 o'clock Pacific now due to the eclipse tomorrow.
Yeah, which is wild. One of our writers, Alex Barutha, is going to Indy because that's one of the better spots to go watch the eclipse.
I hear there's like a big chunk of that, tunnel that has a cloud cover tomorrow, so that's gonna be a problem with people.
Yeah, here in Kansas, we're actually going to get a pretty decent view of it too. So, nice. Kind of looking forward to it.
So let's jump into FAAB this week. There was a lot of action. We mentioned a lot of injuries, so when you got injuries, you got to find people to pick up. But first, a note from our sponsors at Vivid Seats. Finally, baseball's back. This MLB season knocked out of the park with Vivid Seats and score great tickets to the biggest games of the year. Every fastball, every home run, every eye-popping play of your favorite team live and in person. Plus, with Vivid Seats rewards, you earn rewards with each single purchase. Just buy 10 tickets, then cash in your credit towards your free 11th ticket. Talk about an easy win. Here's a pro reward tip. When buying tickets for the whole group, split the bill and make progress towards your free 11th ticket even faster. From behind the dugout to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2024 games that matter to you. Visit vividseats.com or download the app today at Vivid Seats. Experience it live. See vividseats.com/rewards for all terms and conditions. So Jeff, let's talk some FAAB. I think there were more. I'm going to start with hitters. There are probably some more interesting pitchers, but got a lot of hitters that are struggling. I have a lot of fringy guys I was looking to replace. What were you doing in hitters this week? I had a lot of trouble finding guys I really liked. There were a couple of interesting middle infielders with Oliver Dunn and Blaze Alexander who've kind of found their way into full-time playing time. There were some outfielders. Michael Conforto in 12-teamers was available about a third of those. J.J. Bilday's hitting second or third for Oakland almost every day. Is available in a lot of 12-teamers, some main events. What were you doing in offense? Because I had a lot of trouble finding guys, and I was super excited about spending money on an offense this week.
I agree. I was struggling to find hitters. I honestly, I think you need. It's almost all local. You almost have to find Michael Conforto is available in one of my leagues, so okay, you go after him there because you're getting more playing time there. And I was going after Blaze Alexander in some places. Honestly, I was looking at your outline to try to find some ideas because I was running out of ideas. I was a little crunched for time this week in doing my FAAB. So
you should have told me. I would have set the outline a little bit earlier.
Yeah, well, dang, come on, do my job for me, please.
I was kind of interested in Oliver Dunn in Milwaukee, playing a good amount, and he is someone that strikes out way too much. So I'm going to get that out of the way. I think batting average is a gigantic risk here, but this is someone that was 21 home runs, 16 stolen bases last year in Double-A for the Phillies in 119 games, hit 271. That came with a big BABIP. Obviously, struck out 28% of the time, but he walks a ton. He walked 16% of the time last year. He's never had a season in the minors where he didn't walk at least 12% of the time. He's a guy that strikes out a lot, but has some patience at the plate. And for someone that has a little bit of speed, that's really good. You want him to get on base. I thought he was mildly interesting. He had a 400 OBP last year in Double-A. Between him and Blaze, I kind of lean towards Dunn because fantasy-wise, I thought maybe he was a little more had a little more ceiling to him.
Yeah. I agree that I was in a little bit on Blaze just because of the playing time opportunities.
Yep.
And plus, you can say to Blaze, but
it is a really fun name to root for.
Yes, it is. Dunn was going higher than I expected. He was on our list of players, but.
Yeah, he was. There were a lot of I'd say between $50 and $100 bids on him. A lot
of smart people were in on Dunn.
Yeah.
So maybe I should have been a little higher on him. I'm not smart, so there you go. But we'll see how the Brewers' playing time situation works itself out. I mean, we're going to see Garrett Mitchell's going to be out for a while, and that's kind of like the fulcrum because when Mitchell comes back, then they have to figure out the outfield crunch, which means Frelick goes back to third, perhaps, or maybe it's too late. We'll see. But yeah, that's one where it could work out well. And I wasn't really on him, but there's potential.
Yeah, and he hit fifth the last 2 days this weekend, and he hit leadoff today. Like, I mean, you see that, and you're like, oh, that's kind of pretty interesting right there. And Milwaukee's decent place to hit. So if he's going to hit leadoff in front of Contreras and Adames, and I mean, Yelich didn't play today, that's why he hit leadoff. But if he's still going to hit fifth or sixth behind, between Hoskins and I mean, it's a pretty good lineup spot. He's playing a bunch. I think you'll have some real dips with him, but I do really like Dunn.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just looking through my FAAB results to see what hitters I was going after. And, it was really thin gruel this week. There weren't too many guys I was really going after. Even in the 12s.
I was going to say, even in the 12s, I did my 15 teams. I always do those first just because you got to get a little deeper on those. And I looked at the 12s. I'm like, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of names. And I was like, aside from Conforto, I didn't really have a lot I was fired up about. The guy that I do like a little bit is Will Brennan in Cleveland, playing a bunch. He's someone that I think is a nice average guy. He was a pretty good average guy in the minors. He strikes out very little. He struck out 12.5% of the time last year for the Guardians, 138 games, hit 266 with 13 steals. The pop is obviously an issue, although he's hit the ball really hard so far this year, but it's a really small sample, of course. But give me someone who doesn't strike out at all, a little bit of speed. I thought he was mildly interesting as someone who's playing a bunch for the Guardians right now.
I can see it. I have a hard time not holding last year against him. The utter lack of power that happened last year. And that's the thing it's difficult to roster an outfielder that doesn't have any pop. You need just even token pop.
Yeah.
If McCarthy is saying that, but
I was gonna say, whatever. Or if you don't, you better hit for a high average and skill basis. So it's got to be both. Since we're talking Blaze Alexander, someone asked in the chat, Blaze Alexander or Jose Caballero. I would take Jose Caballero because I think the steals upside is pretty significant with Caballero, and he's playing every day for the Rays.
Yep, I can buy that.
I like the second and short eligibility too. Sorry, go ahead. You got McCarthy in what?
I did get McCarthy. I think in Scarf is where I got him. Which is like the first time I didn't get outbid on a player all year, so I got that going for me. I won 7-6 on that, but my reward was cutting Matt McLean, so that just tells you how well I've been doing on bidding. It took me until this week to get rid of him in a couple of leagues.
Yeah, I mean, McCarthy was really bad last year, got sent down, but still ended up with 26 steals. I mean, it's and then with Alec Thomas on the IL, McCarthy's playing a bunch. I think McCarthy's a really poor hitter, but you're gonna you have someone that was a 7th, 8th round pick last year before off his 2022, so he's shown a bunch. He was really good in 2022. Yeah, I don't. If you need some steals, I don't hate that. I don't love the player as a hitter, but fantasy wise, it can work.
Yeah, exactly.
Other offensive guys, a couple of outfielders like Tyrone Taylor is playing a bunch. Kyle Isbell, I grabbed in a couple spots where I need an outfielder. He's playing a bunch of KC and a little bit of prospect pedigree in the past. Josh Smith is mildly interesting in Texas with Josh Young out. He's third short and outfield eligible. It's kind of nice. You cover both middle corner and a sixth outfielder in one spot. Hits the ball pretty hard, but I think playing time and how many opportunities he's going to get might be a little limited there. So it's as you said, it was kind of slim pickings across the board in offense this week.
One of these guys will probably hit. I don't really know which one,
and that's why you got to stay active and you got to be involved because someone's going to hit here.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is where you take a shot, you churn the bottom of your roster, and you get them for the minimum price. I think that's one of the keys here too. Is you're not expending a whole lot, but Matt McLean shouldn't be active. Shouldn't be on your roster, period. You replace him with anyone that you're taking a shot with. And then if it doesn't work out, you go to the next one and you keep churning. I need to do a better job of that myself. I mean, like I said, it took me a couple of weeks to churn Matt McLean off of a couple of rosters. That means I'm not bidding. I didn't have a long enough waterfall. And I know,
and I probably do the opposite. I have ridiculous waterfalls that I probably spend too much time on. They never get near that, but,
we only have the best waterfalls. I can't even do a Trump voice when I want to, but that's all right.
Yeah. That might be a good thing right there.
No, Pat Mayo does a really good one there. It's pretty funny.
Pat Mayo does a lot of things really well.
He's a good human. Yeah.
Not many other names. I think Ivan Herrera in St. Louis interesting, but only if Contreras we're going the IL. And it seems like he's not going to.
Yeah, but let me interject there because
please do.
what happens if like Contreras DHs a little bit here at some
Could
point
be.
in time, because Herrera can hit. Just look at his AAA numbers.
He would have been the biggest. If Contreras had got an IL, Herrera would have been the most popular ad this week for sure.
Yeah, I like him as better as a hitter than I do Travis d'Arnaud. I know d'Arnaud's got the playing time right now, but I think Herrera can really play.
He had 11 steals in AAA last year in 83 games. Like, you're gonna get that at catcher. Like, that's massive.
Yep.
Someone in the chat asked if you would grab Jackson Chourio or wait for Caminero. I would grab Jackson Chourio. I'd stop listening to podcasts for 5 seconds, go grab him, and then come back real quick.
Yeah, agreed. Flat
out stud, and already has a couple of home runs, playing a ton. I think that he's someone I would not linger on the waiver wire for another second.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's jump into starting pitching. I thought that was where there was a little more interest in me and a lot more need for people was the starting pitcher. But first, note from our sponsors at On Demand DFS. Do you ever think back to the golden days of fantasy football? You know, when it was all about the love of the game, the camaraderie, and yes, the bragging rights. Well, our friend at On Demand DFS are bringing those days back with a revolutionary app that's changing the game for fantasy fans everywhere. Gone are the days of confusing entry fees, playing against unknown masters, or juggling multiple apps to talk trash with your teammates, with your league mates. On Demand DFS is here to streamline your fantasy football experience, making it about strategy, fun, and most importantly, the community. With On Demand DFS, you can create a contest in seconds, invite your friends, and you're off to the races. No entry fees, no gimmicks, just pure fantasy football bliss. And here's the kicker. You're not limited to current season players. Imagine crafting your dream lineup from over 5,000 NFL legends and today's stars. Sounds pretty sweet, actually. Using real historical data to simulate the action. For those who hate the wait, you'll love Turbo Mode. Contests wrap up in minutes, not hours, keeping the excitement going all week long. Download the On Demand DFS app now and get started with a 30-day free trial. Dive into a fantasy football experience that's rich in history, strategy, and most importantly, fun. It's time to create your legacy with the ultimate lineup of legends and live out your fantasy football dreams like never before with On Demand DFS. So, Jeff, let's talk starting pitching. People needed it. There was some interesting names out there. I think the top name that I heard out there and the top name I had for myself was Spencer Turnbull in Philly. 81% rostered in the main event, so he was taking most leagues there, but a lot of 12-teamers. He was available, pitched well. Most importantly, for a lot of people, has 2 starts this week. I think he faces St. Louis and Pittsburgh. I'm doing off the top of my head, but I think that's what it was. There's been some talk about he has a new sweeper, so maybe the pitch mix changed a little bit because obviously we've seen a lot of Spencer Turnbull in the past, and a lot of it wasn't fantastic, but he had a few flashes. Were you interested in Turnbull at all this week for the 2 starts?
Absolutely, I was interested. I only got him in 2 leagues. I got him in 15-teamers, ironically enough. I got him in
good.
Scarf and yogurt.
We're talking like 60s, 70s? Like what was the winning prices in there?
Let's see. With yogurt, it was 37.
Oh, that's cheap.
To 1.
Oh.
Weird. I'm starting to think my yogurt league is weird, by the way. And then in Scarf, where I've been consistently outbid, I won 57 to 46. So
yeah, he went for 92 in my main event to someone there.
Yeah, in my main, he went for 88.
I had a weird main event. Our Vegas main event was weird this week. The top 5 bids, the backup bids were all single digits. It was very strange. It was like a lot of like mid-range picks, but the expensive, like Eduardo Rodriguez went for 157 with a backup bid of 6. Like it was some stuff like that. David Fry went for a lot of money, but it was a lot of like high bids with low backups. It was a very strange week.
Yeah. My main was, we're not being aggressive enough in my main. I'm being too aggressive in yogurt. So I have to adjust accordingly, but we got like the 15th player there, but the funny thing is we're not seeing massive like players yet. We haven't had, we
have not
FAAB yet, not even close. There's been a couple.
It felt like last year we knew there were like 5 or 6 big name pictures that were about to come up, and I feel like we don't have that this year. I know Paul Skeens there, but he's rostered Skeens is rostered everywhere. I mean, at least in 15 teamers. I don't feel like we have this like, these 5 guys are coming up in the next month like we had last year with a lot of guys that came up and we were bidding on them every week. It just doesn't feel like that. I mean, I'm sure it will. It's very, very early, but I think that I don't know. We'll have to see if that windfall of starting pitching names come in.
Yeah. Paul says it's so early. It's only 10 days in. Yes, but we've had 3 FAAB periods. And I usually the first 2, there's usually some massive guy. There's usually a closer.
I guess Jason Foley got some pretty big bids last week, but
yeah, I guess there were a couple leagues where he went 4 bills, but that was pretty much an anomaly there for the most part there. Especially, I feel like the mains haven't had the massive things yet.
No, there've not been a ton of huge bids, but I like Turnbull too. I think that's when you get someone that has a new pitch or something new, maybe you can read into that a little bit. He's going to go right in the fire this week though with the 2 starts, and if you bought him, you got to use him this week.
Yep, that's true. That is absolutely true.
What
how
about? I was gonna say, what about Mr. No Hitter? I thought we were gonna get a little Johnny Vandermeer reference tonight, but
God, that's what I was trying to do. That's why I was trying to get in before you here. I was gonna call him Ronel Vandermeer, but one hit from doing that accomplishment there. But
yeah, the sad thing is, I think that everybody involved was probably happy to get up a hit because they were going to have to take him out. He was at like 92 pitches through 6, something like that. They were going to have, but that would have been like that's like the Major League Baseball record. Like it's been done once in the history of the game. Like, you got to take him out though, right?
Yeah, sir. If not then the next inning at the latest.
Right. Like there was no way he was going, but like, man, that would have been really hard to walk out there and take him out with 6 outs away from that level of history.
Yeah, I will say though, this start here is what caused his price to go up because he did it against Texas, who was just killing the Astros all weekend long.
Yeah.
It's a weird profile because he's 30 years old. He hit AAA at 2019. He didn't even sign as a professional until he was 22 years old. Most players sign a lot younger.
He's 30.
He's 30 and had 8 career starts before the no-hitter.
I knew he wasn't a young guy, but 30, wow.
30. But you know what? He changed his pitch mix. He throws a ton more changeups now.
Yep.
And I think that is, that's noteworthy. I don't think it's like, okay, the story's over, but teams are going to have to start scout for it a little bit more. They're going to have to try to view the video as best they can to try to kind of identify when he's going to throw it there. But I don't know. At the same time, there, Scott, it's you shut down the Rangers like this after the no hitter against the Jays, and you have my attention. I mean, those bid prices went up. I mean, I wish he would have pitched Monday instead, but
he was pretty well rostered in 15 teamers, but he was 80% available in the 12 teamers. He was available in a lot of 12 teamers, and I think you're right. I think as we got closer to 7 o'clock Pacific, everybody was clicking some plus numbers on their Blanco bids.
He was available in both scarf and yogurt for me. I prioritize Turnbull over Blanco, though. I don't know. I could be wrong about that one, but maybe it's just the 2 starts this week.
Where would you stick Graham Ashcraft in that mix? Pitching for our Reds. He gets 2 starts a week, home against Milwaukee and at the White Sox. He was available about half the main events, most of the 12 teamers. With 2 starts this week, where are you on Ashcraft at the moment?
Considerably lower.
Okay.
I mean, the ballpark is the ballpark. Until he shows he consistently miss bats, I'm not going to buy in. I know the stuff doesn't match the K rate. The stuff has always been better than the K rate. It's just at some point I need to see the performance.
Yeah, every time I look at him, I'm like, oh, but he throws the stuff's so good that every time I look, it's a 17% strikeout rate. It's like me. It just has not translated. I was probably Turnbull, then Blanco, then Ashcraft myself too. Although I do get it, the people you like the stuff, but I'm so scared of the Cincinnati ballpark myself too.
I'll go farther. I went Assad and I went Wicks ahead of Ashcraft. Maybe it's just self-hating Reds fan love there, but I just can't do it. I mean, it's a I know Great American didn't play that way this weekend, but it did today, or it did on Friday, it did yesterday. But I'm risk averse when it comes to Ashcraft. I've been burned before.
I thought Wicks was really interesting. He's someone who's had a huge swinging strike rate in the minors in the past. Did not translate last year in the majors, but first 2 starts, he's only got 4 and 4 2 innings, so like 8 2/3 of innings total. But 15% swing strike rate in those first couple starts. That caught my attention a little bit. He walks a few too many guys, but I think that Wicks, a shot on Wicks is pretty interesting right now. He was someone that I had above Assad and Ashcraft. Yeah,
and it's also I like Wicks too, but keep in mind he faced the Rangers and he faced the Dodgers. He didn't get the Rockies. He didn't get to beat up on the bad team that the Cubs have faced so far.
Yeah, he pitched really well against the Dodgers. 7 strikeouts and 4 2/3. I think going deep into games, getting wins is going to be an issue at least most of this first half of the year. But you're right; those are really good teams he pitched against.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and Wicks doesn't throw super hard, so there is that. But I'm interested.
What do we do with someone like Paul Blackburn for our former A's? 2 starts, 13 innings, has not given up a run yet. WHIP is .54, been really good. The command has been really good. He's actually looked pretty good. I watched the start against Detroit this weekend, and he threw. He's never going to strike out a lot of guys, but he threw some pretty good pitches. Looked pretty good. Never going to strike guys out. I think his strikeout rate last year was 22.4%. That was his career high, and walked 9% of guys. But pitched in a really probably one of the 2 or 3 best parks for pitching these days. Huge foul territory, a pretty deep outfield too. What do you do with someone like this who was not good last year? WHIP was over 1.5. Do you buy into this at all? Or are we talking a couple of lucky starts here? Where you probably miss his 2 best starts.
Not exactly missing him, Bob. No. Was it last year that Blackburn got off to such a great start, or was it 2 years ago? I forget which, but I'm just not. I need a much, much, much longer rope to start buying in there. It's 2 starts, and one of them was against Detroit. Bless their hearts, they're not that great of an offense yet. I mean, are we buying into Ryan Feltner? I mean, there's no difference between his start and Blackburn's. In fact, Feltner's probably off to a better start. I'm still not touching him.
It was 2 years ago on Blackburn. I looked. I thought it was, but I'm not touching Blackburn either. I had him, down some conditional lists, but that was the extent of it. Someone in the chat asked how do you feel about Tim Anderson. I feel about Tim Anderson like I felt about Tim Anderson for a long time. I do not feel about Tim Anderson. I would not be interested in him. He's not hitting anything hard, and he's striking out a freaking ton already this year. So no thanks.
Yeah, and by the way, Paul Spore says easy on the Feltner slander. I'd love him if he wasn't Rocky, but it's slander because he precisely is a Rocky. Yeah. That's why I'm going to slander to my heart's content there, because Coors never loses, and so and the Rockies were still eating pace in the corner, and I'm never going to give them any credit for finding talent. So even if he is talented, I'm not going to give the Rockies credit, and generally that wins for me, so that's fine.
What about Tyler Anderson in Anaheim? Had a good start there. He's someone that I am really never in on. Never time him well. He has a 2-step this week though. Home against Tampa Bay, at Boston. That at Boston followed by at Cincinnati the week after just got me terrified enough that I did not grab him.
I'm gonna say that I have had him rostered in some places already, but that's born out of desperation as a reserve pick sort of thing. And I think we did pick him up in the main. I don't think we'll use him this week, but in case it's real, I want to have him there because he was real a couple of years ago.
His dad can't stand me, so I can't pick him up ever.
I thought that was a different Anderson that you.
Brett Anderson blocked me. Tyler Anderson's dad tweeted at me once because I made a bad comment about one of his starts.
Did you compare him to Brett Anderson?
No, I should have. That would have been the ultimate insult.
How do I compare thee to a summer's day?
I think I said something like, I think he pitched pretty well for a while, and then he got smoked. I said something like, I think we've been waiting for that Tyler Anderson blow up all year long, and his dad apparently maybe must search his name on Twitter or something, but did not enjoy my comment.
So yeah, I mean,
I did just to be clear. I did not tag him or anything. I just made the comment.
No, I know you're not a tagger.
No, I'm not a tagger.
You're not a tagger.
Agreed.
But Tyler Anderson had a couple of good missed bat spring training starts that caught my attention. Like maybe he refigured out what he was doing so well with the Dodgers that one season, other than being a Dodger. It's worth a shot. We're all desperate for starting pitching help. So but you mentioned those matchups. I don't want to touch those matchups either, though.
One guy I was interested in, based on how he pitched this weekend against the Astros, is Cody Bradford with the Rangers. 7 2/3 against Houston, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. Looked really good. I watched a part of that game. His pitch really well. So a lot of command. He's a command guy. He was a 5% walk guy last year, 2.3% this year. The issue with him is that he is going to start this week. There was a lot of talk that he was not, but then Michael Lorenzen is going to make one more rehab start. So Lorenzen's probably going to take his spot, although maybe one more good start and Bradford sticks around a little bit, but he has the possibility to get squeezed here pretty quick.
Yeah, but he's good.
He is.
And Cody Bradford was good last year too.
And Bradford gets Oakland this week too, which you gotta love. Even for a 1-start week, you gotta love that as an ad.
I think he's a better pitcher than Michael Lorenzen. I think the Rangers are making a misstep if they don't keep Bradford in the rotation, or at least keep him in a fantasy, in a significant role where he's throwing a number of innings. He misses bats. I think he's actually actively good.
And I think it's one of those situations. I agree with you. I think he's actively good too. Someone's gonna get hurt. Like I think if we've seen nothing else from the start of the season, like these situations are going to work themselves out. Like you've got John Gray there, who knows if he's good or if he's going to stay healthy. Andrew Heaney has had many an injury issue. Who knows how Lorenzen's going to be. I think you've got I think you pick up pitchers you think are good. Here's a 6th guy, a swing man. If he goes to the pen for a little bit, I think he's got some value. I liked him. I had him in my list pretty high up. I like a Bradford ad. Someone asked in the chat, Reed Detmers or Bradford? I would definitely take Reed Detmers instead of Bradford, especially because Detmers pitched well and he's locked in the rotation. But I really like the Bradford ad, and I think at some point, even if he loses spot to Lorenzen, it's not going to be that long before someone else has to skip a start or be out of there.
Well, and Paul makes a good point. He's still got, if Bradford gets 6 to 7 innings a week, that's like as good as a start.
Yeah.
And Lord knows we are, we're dealing with pitchers staying healthy, getting innings. We're in a new dynamic there where maybe relievers are picking up more wins anyhow sometimes. Maybe it's smarter just to find the good pitchers and forget about the role. I mean, not maybe, it is. It's always is skills over roles, right? And I think Chandler is one of his many sayings that was right.
Last pitcher I wanted to ask you about, just because we talked about Strider's injury. The obvious first thought in his mind was AJ Smith-Shawver in coming up. He was their big prospect that was we talked a lot last year when he got called up. He was not great last year, although the whip was pretty good, but the area was over 4. Made 1 start in AAA, and it was horrible this year. He walked pretty much everybody in that start. He pitched 2/3 of the inning, walked everybody. Doesn't seem all that close, but obviously, he's someone that they called up last year, was a big prospect. A ton of walks in AAA last year. The biggest concern with me is he was a 15% walk rate guy in AAA last year. I just don't think he's ready myself.
Yeah. I almost would pick up Winans instead. I think Winans got called up. He might be in the bullpen, but I think that's possibly a better way to go about that anyhow. I'm trying to pull up Atlanta's schedule here to see who they might be putting in a rotation.
It looks like at least RotoWire has David. Is it David Dodd?
Dylan
Dodd. Who's David Dodd?
That was Football Guys, right?
Football Guys? Yeah, that's right. I knew someone.
Yeah, he's the founder of Football Guys, along with Joe
Bryant, right?
Joe Bryant, who's awesome. Yeah. Dylan Dodd is a prospect in his own right too. He was a spot starter last year, and he wasn't very good either. But he also is a 3rd round pick in 2021. It's not like this is a guy that is a total scrub himself. He was terrible with the Braves last year, but and actually terrible at Gwinnett last year too. Now that I look at it, so okay, he is more of a scrub than I'm giving him lack of credit for. If that makes sense. All
right, Paul. I messed it up. David Dodds with an S. I fully butchered that name. My apologies.
Oh, you're terrible. You're a horrible human being for that, Scott. How dare you? How dare you, sir? How old is AJ Smith-Shawver, by the way? Do you know?
21.
Yeah, okay, you did know.
I did know.
Good for you.
I did look at that earlier today when I was looking to pick him. It's interesting enough, he was not available in my main events because he did not get drafted. So I didn't have to really think about him very much. Someone asked me how much I thought he'd go for. I thought like 15 to 20. I think that's kind of where he went. He was available, I think, in TGFBI because he was drafted early. He got drafted and dropped, but I don't know. I just I want to see a little more in the minors, and luckily in my main events I get the time to look and see before he gets called.
Yeah, he needs to be stretched out too.
Yeah. What about relievers this week, Jeff? There's some interesting situations where there's some pitchers that relievers that aren't looking good. My first question, I guess, would be not really a question, but Chad Green in Toronto seems like he's the guy for maybe the next week to 10 days before Eric Swanson comes back. And then soon after that, Jordan Romano hopefully comes back. But it seems like Chad Green, at least for the next 10 days, will get the save ops for Toronto.
Looks like it, but are we sure he's going to get all of them, or it's just that he happened to get this last one there?
I think he happened to get the last one. Did he get 2? Did he get 1? He just had 1. Just had 1.
Yeah, just 1 so far.
I put a small bid on him because I think I have a team with 1 save and a team with 3 saves. I've not been good in saves so far, and I have Jordan Romano too, so I think maybe I'll get a few Toronto saves
both,
out
brother.
of this situation. But oh, that's right, you have him too. What do you think about Texas? Jose Leclerc has been a bit of a mess. Did have a 4-out save. I think it was last night, but still didn't look really great doing it. Do you have any interest in adding David Robertson there? What do you think? What do you think Texas ends up doing here?
Isn't Bochy like one of those like super patient managers though?
Usually.
You could speculate on Kirby Yates, and that's fine, or David Robertson.
Leclerc has 2 strikeouts and 5 walks so far.
Yeah, I mean, the strikeouts part is the part that's upsetting. The walks are like that comes with the package. You know what you're getting there. But I mean, I honestly I think that. Yeah, I mean, if you can get Yates on a cheap flyer, just because the lack of like certainty here, I do that. That's one of those where okay, don't hold McLean, go add Yates for cheap, and see if it works out, and then you turn to the next one. And if McArthur doesn't work out in KC, then you go with Stratton, and then you go with somebody else. You keeps throwing darts at that board, and hopefully one of them sticks.
Yeah, as someone who has Leclerc in the league, I'm actually worried. I do not like how he looks so far, but hopefully he can kind of get that going. What about Kansas City? James McArthur got a save today. He had his second save already. Smith
got the other one on Friday.
Smith has not looked good in any way possible. In fact, I think one of those McArthur had to come in and bail him out. Do you think McArthur's kind of the guy here? Do you think there is a guy here? Some people like John Schreiber. Who do you think? I assume McArthur gets the next save, but how do you think he gets that chance to run with it a little bit?
Yeah, I think, and I only think McArthur didn't pitch on Saturday just because he pitched the night before.
Right.
The fact that McArthur came in, and the fact that Smith pitched the 8th today, that's the thing that's the real key here too. It's not just that it was like, okay, Smith's not available. It's that he didn't pitch. I mean, that he did pitch, but didn't pitch that inning. I mean, McArthur hasn't been great. He did get the saves on Friday and Sunday. The Friday one, he induced a huge double play ball that was huge, that was massive. But I think he put on a base runner or two today against the White Sox. But I got to double check on that one there.
He gave up a walk to Gavin Sheets and a single to Benintendi. The interesting thing with Smith, he did not come in and face a whole bunch of lefties by any means. He faced Sosa, Paul DeYoung, someone hit for Maldonado. So Maldonado was scheduled as a righty, and then Robbie Grossman's a switch hitter. So it's not like they brought him in because there were a whole bunch of lefties. They brought him in kind of in the order they were going to use them.
Yeah, and Smith was dodging raindrops in that outing too. He put a runner on, and I think he gave up a hard hit ball, if I recall correctly.
He looks legit bad. I mean, I watched a couple of that. He just looks bad. He looks maybe fried.
Yeah, so I think McArthur is the guy for now, but I don't think it's a super majority. I think it's he's more often than not the guy, but it still could be Schreiber, who hasn't given up a run yet. It still could be Stratton, who's a veteran, who's had experience in the role. I feel like this is a classic, okay, we're not going to declare anything sort of type of thing, except Smith not it for now, but he could get the job later too. I mean, look at what a mess Detroit is right now too. We had these big bids on Foley, and then Foley pitched the 8th as the fireman reliever or whatever the hell.
It was a pretty good spot for him though, because the A's had a bunch of lefties coming up and chafing. It worked out pretty well. You got the middle of the order, but they have a lot of good arms in that bullpen too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good note from Paul. Oswaldo Cabrera will get third base eligibility. We talked about it last week that we liked adding him as an outfielder. Last week he's got third base eligibility. He's got a couple more games there. What about in the Reds pen? Is Alexis Diaz at all at risk here? He's not looked good so far. Do you think he's at risk yet?
No, I don't. He looked fine against Philly in 2 outings. Wasn't great the other day getting the save against the Mets, but the ball was flying out that day too. So I'm whistling in the dark in this one here. He's fine. Nothing to see here.
Fair enough. You have any worries with Kenley Jansen in Boston? Are you thinking about picking up a speculative closer there?
Chris Martin for sure if he's available. I mean, I think that's a great pickup because Martin's really just a good pitcher too.
Yeah,
another one of those situations.
Yeah, Kenley has shown a bunch of walk issues so far. Hasn't got many runs yet, so I don't think we're really at risk there.
Yeah,
there was a
velocity's way down though.
question in the chat if they
Velocity's way
saw
down.
the AJ Hinch commenting when he used Foley. He was messing with fantasy owners. He did. I did see that quote. It was pretty funny. He said apologies to all the fantasy players out there when he brought in Foley in the 8th. So at least he's acknowledging that we're around. It's a good AJ Hinch, good Stanford guy right there. I like AJ.
Yep.
Anybody else reliever wise? I felt like it was kind of a week of just speculative closers. Nobody that was really overly exciting. I thought that most of FAAB this week was in starting pitching.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Chapman's available from Aroldis Chapman available, and I had to fight the throw up urge, but he was in my waterfall at one point just because I think Bednar still could get traded, and that lat issue could still linger.
I have I drafted Chapman in the main event, and I've held him so far. He had a save this week, but it was just because Bednar wasn't available. I almost dropped him this week. I thought I'm going to hold one more week. I'm going to make sure that Bednar is fully healthy this week because I think that, and we talked about it before, if Bednar got hurt, Chapman would be a top 8 closer, 10 closer pretty immediately. Pittsburgh's playing well. Chapman's throwing well. So I'm holding him one more week until I need to drop him. If I need that spot, he's a pretty pretty easy drop. He's not getting saves, but I think that not needing the spot yet, and not having anybody that I really needed, I'm holding for another week.
Yep, sounds good.
A few guys I want to ask you about before we do jump out of here. You mentioned Ronald Acuna earlier when you were joking about the Strider stuff and you considering whether to play him. Are you concerned at all with Acuna's first 10 days, just strictly from a strikeout perspective? We talked so much last year about how he cut his strikeout rate to an insane 11% rate. He was like a kind of low 20s guy the 2 years before that. He's at 33% so far this year. Any concerns at all? I don't. Doesn't have a barrel yet, which is kind of weird for Acuna, but I'm not worried yet. But the strikeouts are, you want to see that go away pretty quick here.
I'm modestly worried. Not modestly, moderately worried. Okay. I speak English. Just the lack of power. I think, we know what happened in in spring training. I do think he's behind a little bit there. I think that is a real thing. He had that one stolen base, but you said no barrels, no homers, high strikeouts. Yeah, I'm a little concerned. However, that
was a full Stephen A. Smith. However, right there, that was impressive.
However, yeah. They played in some really crappy weather so far this year. The Chicago series and the Philly series, both there was some bad weather situations. So I think that is a mitigating circumstance.
If we drafted tomorrow, I'd take him 1 overall. How about that?
I would too. I feel like we already. Knock on all the wood on this desk here, fake wood at this hotel desk. We avoided the Spencer Strider news with that 1.1. We debated it, but it's still, we're not out of the woods yet by any stretch. All the Mookie guys at pick 1-3 are laughing all the way to the bank right now, though.
Bobby Witt's got a 77% hard hit rate right now.
Is that good?
That's insane. That's a bonkers number.
27. The Royals.
27% barrel rate is absurd.
Yeah. The Royals, fun fact, they have not had a starting pitcher allow more than 3 runs in an outing yet.
Wow. Brady Singer looks awesome.
Yeah, and
2 really good starts.
Looked great this week. Lugo looked great. Now, granted, facing the White Sox is helpful, but they faced the Orioles earlier this week.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point on the Royals starters. They have been very strong. Kind of along the same lines as Acuna. There's another first rounder that I did not really target, didn't really want, and he kind of fell to me in one of the first rounds, which kind of sounds dumb in the first round. But I took Corbin Carroll, and he doesn't look good either. He has 0 barrels already this year too. He's hitting 194. Weirdly, I think he has 1 strikeout on the year. Like, he does not striking out at all, but just not doing anything at all positive. He has 1 strikeout, 2.96% strikeout rate.
7 walks though, going into the day at least.
17% hard hitter. He's not hitting anything hard so far. It's 8 games. Like, what are we really doing? But I'm a little worried. If he had that shoulder thing, he seems like he's healthy. I'd just like to see at least a couple of line drives in the gap here pretty soon, so I feel a little better about this one.
There's the shoulder issue that's underlying everything here.
Yeah.
I think there's a legitimate cause for some concern. I don't know about straight up like panic or anything, but yeah, I mean, you have to at least consider that that's a possibility. And didn't you tell me at the start of draft season you weren't going to take guys that fell to you? You're going to take guys you like.
I did. Now I got no. I was taking Tatis for sure at 8, and he was gonna be there, and someone took him at 5 or 6, and
what a jerk.
And Ohtani had that weird stuff going on, so it was Carroll or Soto, and I went with the stolen bases, and I'm not feeling especially the teams actually started out pretty well too, so I'm hoping that Carroll gets it going because I need to get.
Is that the online main?
That was my online main. Yeah, my Vegas main has not started out well.
Oh no.
Well, just good. I mean,
don't like hearing that.
I have my starting pitcher 1 is Max Fried in that league, and I have Shane Bieber as my third pitcher.
So let's talk a little Max Fried.
I was going to say that's a good segue. And I had Fried on this list. I felt a little bit better than like the second, third, and fourth inning. He came out and pitched okay, but man, he's been a disaster so far. That first inning, I mean, he's throwing. It's not a lack of velocity. He's throwing hard. He's just not locating. His velocity is a little bit down from last year, but he's just locating nothing. It's very strange, concerning. I don't know what to think, but he looks like a different guy out there right now. It's been ugly so far. 2 starts, 5 innings. Like I'm not freaking out yet, but I'm at least see a good start because you obviously the thing you worry about with someone that looks like this is maybe something's there's something going on health wise. But yeah, his whip's 3.2, Jeff. That's not his ERA. His whip.
Yikes! I mean, and granted, he had that first start against the Phillies, and that was crazy.
I didn't think it was good out in the first inning in this last game either. I thought there was a point where it got to be, I think it was 5-0 or 6. I think it was 6-0 in the first, and he gave that last hit. I'm like, he's coming out again, and they left him in, and then he threw 3 shutout innings, and then he gave up a run or 2 in the 5th. He threw the ball in the center field on a double play, that his own error, but. I mean, even that game, he had 10 hits. He had 10 hits allowed. So the first game it was the walk. Second game it was the hits. It's
and he had a forearm issue last year at the end of the year last year. I mean, that bled into the playoffs. It certainly put them at risk for losing, and they did lose. I mean, part of that was they didn't have a full-on Strider and they didn't have a full-on Fried. I didn't realize that Strider was a risk, but here we are.
Yeah, and the thing with Fried is that whenever he's been healthy, he's been amazingly good. So like there was always as long as he's healthy, he's really good. But he faces the Mets this week, so hopefully it's a decent get well spot. The Mets offense has really struggled, but I need to see something good out of Fried. I admit that I'm a little paranoid at the moment.
For sure, you should be.
Are you paranoid at all about Kevin Gossman? The velocity was. Usually when you see a velocity, mile 2 down, this or the whatever, his velocity was like 4 miles an hour down in that start from the one before. He looked really bad against the Yankees in that start. He could not get anybody out. He gave up 4 hits and had 2 walks in only an inning, a third. He gave up 2 home runs. Velocity was way down. He looked pretty good the first start. He only threw 4 and a third, but had 6 strikeouts. How much do you worry about someone that's velocity is that far down to start? Because it has to be a concern.
Of course, I did. Basically, I missed out on Gossman because of that shoulder, though, in spring training, and the timing of him like starting to look better and getting. I would have taken him in the main. I would have there, but for the grace of God, go I, because I definitely would have taken him at the 2-3 turn, but he got picked early in that draft, and in part because the signs were better again on him.
Yeah, they were. I just that was definitely a concern. He looked like a just different guy out there at that point. But couple questions in the chat before we jump out of here. Jeff, someone says his worst producers are Christian Encarnacion Strand and Wyatt Langford. Should I drop either of them for Michael Garcia, Brendan Donovan, or Jackson Churi? That's a tough one because those guys you have available are really good. I would probably take Churio over CES myself.
Dude, that's a tough call, though.
I like CES, but I think I'd take Churio.
I mean, if you need stolen bases at all, yeah, sure. And I think CES is pressing a little bit. I think he'll be fine, but yeah, I get it. I think I go Churio too, but it's not a slam. It's definitely not a slam dunk for me. It's a 50-50 call.
One other here. Brady Singer, Reed Detmers, or Garrett Crochet for the rest of the season in a quality start instead of wins league. That is a tough one too. I'm going Detmers. As much as I love Crochet, I still go Detmers.
That was my initial lean too. But then I started thinking about it more, and yeah, it's tough.
I love how Crochet looks. I'd love to have both of them for sure, but if I had to pick one, it would be Detmers. But
Yep.
anything else in your mind? It's funny we talked about minor leaguers. Have you seen the Baltimore AAA stats at all?
Oh my gosh!
They have one.
Kierstead.
I think it's one game where they haven't scored 9 runs or something crazy like that.
They won a game 26-11.
Yeah, the one Kierstead had 11 RBIs, whatever it was.
Yeah. Although it's funny, like maybe they should trade for a pitching prospect. I don't know.
They got just a bunch of hitters. I mean, I think they have like 3 of their top 5 prospects on that team, and then Kobe Mayo is also on that team too.
He is one of those prospects. Yeah, Holiday, Mayo. I mean,
Kirsten. I thought there was one other guy in there too that's on that team, and they're just freaking stacked.
They're Connor Norby is a good prospect.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the name.
Kyle Stowers is the guy.
Stowers, that's right.
Spring
Yeah.
training.
Yeah,
And he's killing AAA too. I mean, yeah. It's sick now. Just they could use some. Yeah, they need to get a pit, like trade Connor Norby for a pitching prospect right now. I mean, Norby is like blocked and then blocked and then blocked again, but he's like a legitimately good prospect in his own right.
Yeah, I mean it's every time I look, they have like 12 runs, 13 runs. It's wild.
Yeah, but then again, the Reds are just saying, "Hey, this is why you don't trade their depth." I mean, Marlins pitchers, Reds infielders. It's just brutal.
Hey, the Marlins won a game though.
Yay!
When in doubt, all you need is a little Kyle Gibson in your life to make things all work out.
Yeah, it's a shame that it happened against the Cardinals.
Fair enough. So, thanks everybody for joining. Always fun. Good to talk baseball. As always, went really fast here. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank all our sponsors. Jeff, thank you for coming on. Obviously under tough circumstances. So, all of our thoughts are with you. There were about 9,000 comments in the chat saying the same thing. So obviously we all care about you, care about your family and all that. So good luck with everything there. Hope you hang in there. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. And I needed this. So thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Beautiful. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back at you next Sunday night talking more baseball as we get into the bulk of the season here. So it'll be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. We'll be back at you next Sunday night. Take care. Have a really good week, everybody.